So in those writings, they're called the Targum. In those Targumim, the interpretation is the same. God wants to see what's going on in Sodom, and he knows what's going on is they say, not only do they not share with the poor, they punish those who give to the poor. I mean, it's trying to make the point more emphatically. And what's underlined is not the sexual impropriety, but the root of it all. The fact that they are rich, they live in luxury, they refuse to share, they're arrogant towards God, and so they have no regard for any kind of boundaries. There are no rules for them. And the connection with the sexual aspect is that the point of raping the visitors is not because the visitors were sexually appealing, or these people were sex crazed or something. It was an issue of showing who's boss. It was an issue of practicing dominance, of how should I put it? It was an abuse, first of all, of power. And this is how, if you can say, rape was practiced. This is one of the aspects of rape in the ancient world. To this day, actually, it's also occasionally the case. It's a way of making somebody submit. And you might have heard this stories about stuff that occasionally happens in the army. That's the whole point. So it's a very complex and delicate thing that happens in Sodom. But it's a very multifaceted evil. And for the ancients, the big thing was, you don't do this first and foremost to guests. Because hospitality is a value that nothing should ever tarnish. So you can be the worst person on earth, but when you have a guest, you treat the guest as a king. And no one should touch the guest. You lay your life down for your guest at all cost. So, now go back to our story. And the story goes like this. So the men turned from Abraham, and they went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So the two angels go to Sodom, and they will eventually destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. God will rain down fire on them, and Sodom and Gomorrah will be destroyed and set as an example. So now that we know the story, we can go back to our text here. And Abraham stands face to face with God. Remember the story about Moses yesterday. Face to face with God. What do you think Abraham would like to ask God? Or what would you talk about if God were to appear and have a one-on-one conversation with you? What would you want to ask him? Do you have any questions to ask? Like a stump God?
Why you chose to talk to me? Why you chose to talk to me?
Yeah, why you chose to talk to me? That's a good question. It's an icebreaker. And now that the conversation is going, what would you ask of God? Questions. Remember, God can answer any question. What would you ask?
Why God permit to all these things happen in Sodom?
Yeah. Why God? Why? I mean, this is a question people ask very often, right? When some terrible thing happens, that's what people ask. Why do you allow this? How can it be possible? If you're a good God, why do you allow this to happen? If you're almighty, how can you not intervene? Why aren't you like Superman? Come and rescue everything. Yeah, it's a good question. What else?
Am I doing good? Am I doing good?
Am I doing good? Yes. So, how am I doing? What's my score? What should I change? What should I improve? Other things.
Could you forgive those in Sodom and Gomorrah?
You're a bunch of theologians here. I mean, you are really asking very theological questions. You don't have questions about UFOs, or I don't know.
What the weather's going to be like tomorrow?
Is something like this? Yes.
Well, you don't know when he's going to come to talk to you again, so you don't want to respond.
Yeah. I
Do you
mean,
only get one question?
No. You get as many questions as you want.
Okay.
You get, say, an audience, 3 hours with God. But then that's it. I mean.
It doesn't take that long to answer that.
So here's what Abraham does. Abraham before the Lord. Then Abraham came near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you sweep away the place and not forgive it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And the Lord said, if I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5? And he said, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Again he spoke and said, suppose 40 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 40 I will not do it. Then he said, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. He said, let me take it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 20 I will not destroy it. Then he said, oh, do not let the Lord be angry if I speak just once more. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, for the sake of 10 I will not destroy it. So how do you call this back and forth?
Bargaining.
Bargaining. Now I told you that this paraphrase, the Targum, is important because it tells us how this text was read. Well, in the Targum, the bargain is even longer. They really love this kind of thing, you know. So Abraham going back and forth with God, and Abraham comes up with, God says, "I'll destroy 5 cities, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah and 3 other cities." And Abraham says, "Well, what if we have 50, 10 for each city?" And then he says, "Well, then 5 are lacking. Well, 1 city is not protected, as it were. Will you destroy it?" And God keeps saying, "No, no, no." And numbers and numbers and numbers keep flying, and the negotiation continues for 2 or 3 times as much text as there is here. Before this happens, however, God tells Abraham what he wants to do. The Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Given that Abraham shall become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. I have chosen him that he may charge his children and his household to keep the way of the Lord, so that the Lord may bring about for Abraham what he's promised him." And the Lord said, "How great is the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah, and how very grave their sin. I will go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know." So the men went to Sodom. Now, does Abraham know what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah?
No.
No.
He asks. So
If he doesn't know,
Probably.
is it his business to interfere?
his nephew's there.
So he should know, right? Not only is his nephew there, his nephew is in Sodom, but Gomorrah and other cities in the areas, if we trust the Targums, they must have a reputation. I mean, the world is not that big, and news of such outrageous things travel fast. You know, I mean, you happen to be raped in Sodom, you're going to tell everybody, and everybody will hear of this is an outcry. Look how they treat people. So everyone knows they have a reputation. They're rich and they're filthy. They do all kinds of things that break any laws of common decency. I mean, every possible boundary is disregarded by them. So they have a great reputation. Everybody knows this. So why does God say, "Let me see, I don't quite know if it's true or not"? Shouldn't God know?
Same reason he walks in the garden.
Ah, interesting. But overall, we see that God and Abraham keep wrestling over this issue, right? God wants to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham wants to keep it. And this is the whole discussion. When Abraham has that 1 hour audience with God, he is not asking about, I don't know, angels and how many angels are in heaven, or whether there's life on Mars, or UFOs, or what the future holds, or some theological explanation of this or that. He's concerned with very mundane things. He's concerned with Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean, the worst place, right? And Abraham knows. He's not naive. He knows very well what's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. Why would he bring it up? Why would he bring up Sodom and Gomorrah, the worst place on earth, when he talks with God?